In the Third Age of Middle-earth, when the War of the Ring cast its shadow over the free peoples, the skies were eerily silent. The great dragons, once fearsome lords of fire and wing, were but whispers in the tales of old. Smaug, the last of their kind known to the world, had fallen to Bard the bowman's arrow in the shadow of the lonely mountain. Yet, in the hidden corners of Middle-earth, where ancient secrets slumbered, the legacy of the dragons endured not in flame or fury, but in secrecy and sorrow. This is the tale of where the dragons were during the Lord of the Rings, a story of their retreat, their survival, and their silent vigil as the One Ring stirred once more. It is a tale of pride, loss, and the faint hope of redemption for a race that had once ruled the skies. Far to the north, beyond the grey mountains and the withered heath, where the frost clung to jagged peaks and the wind howled with the voices of forgotten ages, a cavern lay hidden. Its entrance was a mere crack in the stone, veiled by ice and shadow, but within, the air was warm, heavy with the scent of molten rock. Here dwelt Asdreneth, the last of the fire drakes, a dragon of immense age and dwindling power. Asdreneth's scales, once a blazing crimson, had dulled to a smoky garnet, cracked and scarred from battles long past. His wings, though vast, were tattered, no longer capable of bearing him across the skies. His eyes, however, burned with an undying fire, a testament to the pride and sorrow that consumed him. He was not like Smaug, driven by greed for gold or dominion over men. Asdreneth was a creature of memory, haunted by the fall of his kin. In the days of the First Age, dragons had been Morgotha's greatest weapons, forged in the pits of Angband to sow terror and destruction. Glaurung, Ancalagon, and countless others had waged war against elves and men, their flames turning forests to ash and their claws rending mountains. But Morgotha's defeat had shattered their dominion. The dragons that survived fled to the wild places of the world, their numbers dwindling with each passing age. By the Third Age, only a handful remained, and Asdreneth was among the last. He lay coiled in his cavern, his breath a low rumble that shook the stalactites above. Before him was a pool of molten rock, glowing with an inner light. This was no ordinary fire but a remnant of the ancient flames of Angband, preserved through the ages by draconic sorcery. In its depths, Asdreneth sought visions of the world beyond his lair not through greed or ambition, but through fear. The One Ring, that cursed artifact of Sauron, had stirred once more. Its power called to all creatures of shadow, and though Asdreneth had no love for Sauron, he knew the ring's awakening spelled doom for his kind. "Why do you linger, Old One?" a voice hissed from the shadows. It was not a voice of flesh but of spirit, a whisper from the molten pool. The flames parted to reveal a spectral form, a dragon's visage, its eyes hollow and accusing. This was the shade of Tharandral, a dragon slain in the War of the Last Alliance, bound to the fire by Asdreneth's will. "I linger because I must," Asdreneth rumbled, his voice like the grinding of stone. "The world turns toward darkness, and our kin are gone. If the ring prevails, none shall remember the dragons. If it falls, the age of men will erase us still." Tharandral's shade flickered. "You cling to pride, not purpose. The ring is not our concern. Let men and elves perish. We owe them nothing." Asdreneth's tail lashed, sending a shower of sparks into the air. "You forget, Shade. The ring's maker was Morgotha's lieutenant. Its power is a chain, even for us. If Sauron rises, he will seek us out, and we will be his slaves or his prey." The shade hissed but did not reply. Asdreneth turned his gaze back to the pool. In its depths, he saw glimpses of the world, a hobbit bearing a burden of immense weight, a wizard cloaked in white, a dark tower rising in the east. The ring was moving, and with it, the fate of Middle-earth. But Asdreneth saw something else: other dragons, hidden as he was, watching from the shadows. They were few, scattered across the wilds, but they lived. And they, like him, were afraid. Asdreneth knew he could not face the coming storm alone. Though his pride rebelled at the thought, he sent out a call, a low, resonant song that thrummed through the earth, too deep for mortal ears but unmistakable to those of draconic blood. It was a summons to the last of his kind, a council to decide their fate. One by one, they came. First was Vernathar, a cold drake from the Foradwaith, whose scales gleamed like polished obsidian. Unlike the fire drakes, Vernathar breathed no flame but a chilling mist that could freeze flesh to bone. He was smaller than Asdreneth, lithe and serpentine, his eyes sharp with cunning. "I come only because I tire of hiding," he hissed. "What do you propose, Old One? To fight? To flee?" Next came Lirithax, a winged serpent from the far south, where the jungles of Harad met the sea. Her scales shimmered with iridescent greens and blues, and her voice was a melodic purr. "The men of the south speak of Sauron's return," she said. "They offer sacrifices to him, as they once did to us. Why should we care if he rules them?" Last was Garathron, a firedrake like Asdreneth, but younger and fiercer, his scales a deep bronze. He had laired in the mountains of Run, far from the eyes of the west. "I say we strike now," he growled. "While the ring-bearer is weak, we take the ring for ourselves. Its power could restore us." Asdreneth listened to their words, his heart heavy. Each dragon bore the weight of their kind's decline, but their desires differed. Vernethar sought survival, Lirithax indifference, Garathron conquest. None saw the truth as he did. The ring was a poison, a law that would bind them to Sauron's will. "We cannot take the ring," Asdreneth said at last. "Its power is not ours to wield. It was forged by Sauron, and it serves him alone. To claim it would be to invite our doom." Garathron snarled, his wings flaring. "Then what? We cower here while men and elves decide our fate. I will not bow to their world." "Nor will I," Asdreneth replied. "But we must act with wisdom, not wrath. The ring must be destroyed, or Sauron will hunt us to extinction. Yet we cannot join the free peoples, they fear us, and rightly so. Our path lies in shadow, aiding from afar." Vernethar's eyes narrowed. "You speak of aiding those who slew our kin. Smaug fell to a man's arrow, and you would help them?" "Smaug fell to his own greed," Asdreneth countered. "We must be wiser. The ring-bearer, a hobbit, small and unassuming, carries the hope of Middle-earth. If he succeeds, Sauron falls, and we may yet endure. If he fails, none shall escape the Dark Lord's dominion." Lirithax tilted her head, her tongue flickering. "And how do we aid this hobbit without revealing ourselves? The world believes us gone. Let it remain so." Asdreneth nodded. "We act in secret, as we have for centuries. We guard the paths the ring-bearer treads, clear obstacles from his way, and watch for Sauron's spies. We do not fight their battles, but we ensure they have a chance to fight." The dragons fell silent, weighing his words. Garathron's tail twitched, his claws digging into the stone. "I mislike this plan, but I will follow, for now. If it fails, I will seek the ring myself." Vernethar hissed softly. "I care not for your hobbit, but I will watch. Survival is all that matters." Lirithax's eyes gleamed. "I will aid you, Asdreneth, but only because I tire of the south. Let us see if this hobbit is worthy of our secrecy." Thus, the council ended, and the dragons departed to their tasks. Asdreneth remained in his cavern, gazing into the molten pool. The path ahead was fraught with peril, but for the first time in centuries, he felt a spark of purpose. The dragons would not rise in glory, but they might yet endure. The ring-bearer, Frodo Baggins, knew nothing of the Dragon's Council. As he and his companions journeyed through the wilds, their hearts heavy with the burden of their quest, the dragons watched from afar. Their aid was subtle, unseen, yet vital. In the mines of Moria, when the Fellowship faced the Balrog, it was Vernethar who stirred the shadows. The cold drake, slipping through forgotten tunnels, unleashed a burst of his icy breath to collapse a passage, slowing the orcs that pursued the Fellowship. The act was small, unnoticed, but it gave Gandalf the time he needed to face the Balrog alone. In the forests of Lothlorien, Lirithax wove her own magic. Her serpentine form blended with the trees, and she whispered enchantments to the wind, strengthening the wards of the elven realm. When Sauron's spies, crows and bats, sought to pierce the golden wood, they found their minds clouded, their wings heavy, turning back in confusion. Garathron, ever restless, prowled the eastern borders of Rohan. When Saruman's Uruk-hai marched to capture Merry and Pippin, Garathron's presence stirred fear in their ranks. A sudden blaze of fire, attributed to lightning by the orcs, scattered their scouts, delaying their pursuit. The hobbits' escape to Fangorn was no mere chance, but Garathron cared little for their fate. His eyes were fixed on the ring, though he honored Asdrenith's command for now. Asdrenith himself remained in the north, his visions guiding the others. Through the molten pool, he saw the ring-bearer's path, the treacherous climb to Mordor, the betrayal at Cirith Ungol, the final stand at Mount Doom. Each step was fraught with danger, and Asdrenith knew their aid could only do so much. The dragons could not face Sauron's armies, nor could they confront the Nazgul. Their strength lay in secrecy, in the subtle turning of fate. Yet secrecy came at a cost. The dragons' pride chafed at their hidden role. Garathrin, in particular, grew restless. In the mountains of Run, he began to gather treasures not for greed, but for power. He dreamed of a day when dragons would rise again, ring or no ring. Asdrenith sensed his discontent through the pool and feared betrayal. As Frodo and Sam drew closer to Mordor, Garathrin's patience frayed. He had followed Asdrenith's plan, aiding the ring-bearer from afar, but his heart burned with ambition. The ring's power called to him, a siren song that promised dominion over Middle-earth. Why should dragons cower while hobbits and men shaped the world? In the shadowed peaks of Run, Garathrin met with a servant of Sauron, a sorcerer of the Easterlings, cloaked in black, who bore a palantir. The sorcerer spoke of the ring, of its power to reshape the world, and of Sauron's desire to reclaim it. "Join us," he urged. "The Dark Lord will reward those who serve him. With the ring, you could rule the skies once more." Garathrin's eyes gleamed, but he was no fool. He knew Sauron's promises were lies, that the ring would bind him as it had bound others. Yet the temptation was strong. "I serve no one," he growled. "But I will take the ring for myself." The sorcerer smiled, a cold, knowing smile. "Then find the ring-bearer. He is weak, alone. Take what is yours." Garathrin departed, his wings beating against the night sky. He flew west, toward Mordor, his heart torn between Asdrenith's caution and his own desire. He would find the ring-bearer, but he would not decide his course until he saw the ring with his own eyes. Asdrenith, watching through the pool, saw Garathrin's flight. His heart sank. "Fool," he whispered. "The ring will be your end." He sent a warning to Vernethar and Lirithax, urging them to intercept Garathrin before he reached Frodo. The dragons' alliance, fragile as it was, hung in the balance. In the ashen wastes of Mordor, Frodo and Sam struggled toward Mount Doom. The ring's weight grew heavier with each step, and Sauron's eye searched tirelessly for them. The dragon's aid continued, though its impact waned in the heart of the enemy's domain. Lirithax, ever subtle, wove illusions to cloak the hobbit's path. When orcs patrolled the plains of Gorgoroth, they saw only barren rock, their minds clouded by her enchantments. Vernethar, lurking in the mountains, froze the springs that fed Sauron's forges, slowing the production of weapons and armor. These acts were small, but they bought the hobbits precious time. Garathrin, however, drew closer. His bronze scales glinted in the moonlight as he soared over the Ephel-Duath, his eyes fixed on the faint glow of the ring. He could sense its power, a beacon in the darkness. But as he neared Cirith Ungol, Vernethar confronted him. "Turn back, Garathrin," the cold drake hissed, his breath icing the stones. "The ring is not yours to claim." Garathrin roared, his flames licking the air. "Stand aside, or I will burn you to ash." The two dragons clashed, claw against claw, fire against frost. Their battle was brief but fierce, shaking the mountains. Vernethar, smaller and swifter, evaded Garathrin's flames, but he could not match the firedrake's strength. At last, Garathrin struck him down, leaving Vernethar wounded and broken. Yet the battle had not gone unnoticed. The Nazgul, drawn by the commotion, descended on their fell beasts. Garathrin, weakened from the fight, was no match for their terror. He fled, his dreams of the ring shattered, pursued by the shrieks of the ringwraiths. Asdrenith, watching from afar, grieved for Vernethar's fall. But he knew the hobbits were close to their goal. He turned his gaze to the pool, whispering a final prayer to the flames, "Let them succeed, or all is lost." In the heart of Mount Doom, Frodo faltered. The ring's power overwhelmed him, and he claimed it for himself. But Gollum, driven by his own obsession, wrested the ring from him, only to fall into the fire. The ring was destroyed, and Sauron's power crumbled. The dragons felt the moment of its destruction. Lirithax, coiled in the south, sensed the lifting of a great weight, as if the air itself had grown lighter. Vernathar, recovering in the mountains, hissed in relief, though his wounds would never fully heal. Garathron, hiding in the east, roared in fury, his ambitions reduced to ash. Asdreneth, in his cavern, closed his eyes. The pool of molten rock dimmed, its visions fading. "It is done," he murmured. "The ring is gone, and we are free, for now." But freedom came at a cost. The age of men had begun, and the dragon's time was ending. They could not return to the world, for their presence would spark fear and war. They would remain in the shadows, guarding their secrets, until the last of their kind faded into legend. Years passed, and Middle-earth changed. The hobbits returned to the Shire, the elves sailed to the west, and men built their kingdoms. The dragons retreated further into the wilds, their lairs hidden from prying eyes. Asdreneth remained in his cavern, his strength waning, but his spirit unbroken. Lirithax returned to the jungles, Vernathar to the ice, and Garathron to his solitude, his pride humbled. They did not speak of the ring, nor of their role in its fall. Their aid had been unseen, their sacrifices unacknowledged. Yet in their hearts, they knew they had played a part in saving Middle-earth, not for glory, but for survival. And so, the dragons faded from the tales of men, their wings silent, their fires dim. But in the deep places of the world, where ancient secrets linger, their legacy endures. The silent wings, ever watchful, ever waiting, until the day when the skies might call them once more.